Olivia Bennett never imagined that her weekend trip with Greg would end like this. The hot Arizona sun burned down on her skin as she walked forward on shaky legs. Her water bottle was empty, her phone was dead, and Greg was gone. 6 hours earlier, they had been driving through the desert in their rented car. Olivia had been looking through photos on Greg's phone when a text message popped up. The message was from someone named Amber. "Miss you, baby. Can't wait to see you when you get back from your work trip." Olivia had stared at the message, her heart beating fast. She and Greg had been dating for 2 years. They lived together in Chicago. She had trusted him completely. "Who is Amber?" she had asked, her voice quiet. Greg's face had changed instantly, first surprise, then anger. "Why are you snooping through my phone?" he had snapped, grabbing it from her hands. "I wasn't snooping. The message just appeared," Olivia had said. "Greg, are you cheating on me?" What followed was the worst fight of their relationship. Greg yelled. Olivia cried. Then Greg had pulled the car over on a small dirt road surrounded by desert. "I need some air," he had said, stepping out of the car. Olivia had followed him, wanting to finish their talk, but when she got out, Greg jumped back into the car, locked the doors, and started the engine. "Greg, what are you doing?" Olivia had banged on the window. He had rolled it down just an inch. "I'm done with this relationship and your trust issues," he had said coldly. "Figure your own way back." Then he had driven away, leaving her standing in a cloud of dust with nothing but her purse, her dead phone, and a half-empty water bottle. At first, Olivia had been too shocked to be afraid. She had stood in the same spot for almost 20 minutes, certain Greg would turn around and come back. But the road remained empty. Now, hours later, fear had replaced her anger. The temperature was over 100 degrees. Olivia had grown up in the city. She knew nothing about surviving in the desert. Her light summer dress offered little protection from the sun, and her sandals were not made for walking on rocky ground. She had tried to follow the dirt road back to the main highway, but after an hour of walking, she realized she had somehow lost the road. All around her were just cacti, rocks, and dry brush that all looked the same. The more she walked, the more lost she became. "Help!" she called out, her voice cracking from thirst. "Can anyone hear me?" Only the distant cry of a hawk answered her. Olivia checked her watch. It was just past 2 in the afternoon. She had read somewhere that the desert heat was worst between noon and 4. She needed to find shade and save her energy. A large cactus nearby offered a small patch of shadow. Olivia carefully sat down, avoiding the sharp rocks. She took out her water bottle and allowed herself one small sip, even though it was almost empty. The warm water barely helped her dry throat. She opened her purse, hoping to find something useful. Inside was her wallet, some makeup, a pack of tissues, a granola bar, and a small bottle of perfume. Nothing that could help her find her way out of the desert or call for help. Olivia ate half of the granola bar, saving the rest for later. Thanks. Sweet taste only made her thirstier, but she knew she needed food to keep her strength. As she sat in the small patch of shade, Olivia thought about her life back in Chicago, her job as a marketing executive for a large company, her small but cute apartment, her parents who lived in Michigan, who she didn't call often enough. Would they even know she was missing? She and Greg were supposed to be in Arizona for 5 days. No one would expect to hear from her until next week. After resting for an hour, Olivia decided to keep moving. The sun had shifted, making her shady spot useless. She picked a direction that seemed right and started walking again. By 4 o'clock, Olivia knew she was in serious trouble. Her head hurt badly. Her vision was starting to blur. Her fair skin, usually carefully protected with sunscreen, was burned, red and painful. She had finished her water and her mouth felt like it was full of sand. "Just keep walking," she whispered to herself. "Someone will find you." But as the hours passed, her steps became slower and less steady. The desert seemed to go on forever. Twice she thought she saw buildings in the distance, but when she walked toward them, they disappeared. Mirages, she realized. The desert was playing tricks on her mind. By sunset, Olivia could barely stay on her feet. The cooler evening air offered some relief from the heat, but her body was giving out. She had been walking for almost 8 hours, with almost no water, Her lips were cracked and bleeding. Her sunburn had turned into painful blisters on her shoulders and back. As darkness fell over the desert, a new fear took hold. She had heard there were mountain lions and coyotes in these parts. The thought of facing wild animals in her weakened state made her heart race with panic. Olivia found a spot between some large rocks where she could rest. From here she could see in all directions, which made her feel a little safer. The desert night was surprisingly cold after the heat of the day, and she shivered in her thin dress. Looking up at the stars, Olivia felt very small and alone. In Chicago, the city lights blocked out most stars, but here they filled the sky like millions of tiny diamonds. It was beautiful, but the beauty only made her situation feel more unfair. Was this really how her life would end? Abandoned by her boyfriend, lost in a beautiful but deadly place? As the night grew darker, Olivia's thoughts became less clear. She was badly dehydrated now and her body was shutting down. She knew she should stay awake, but her eyes kept closing against her will. In her half-conscious state, Olivia thought about Greg. How could he have done this to her? Even if he wanted to end their relationship, leaving her in the desert was beyond cruel. It was criminal. If she somehow survived this, she would make sure he faced charges for what he did. Sometime during the night, Olivia fell into a troubled sleep, her dreams filled with endless desert paths and cars that drove away from her. She woke at dawn feeling worse than before. Her head pounded, and when she tried to stand, the world spun around her. She managed to get to her feet and walk a little farther, but by mid-morning, as the sun climbed higher and the heat returned, Olivia could go no further. She collapsed under the shade of a large saguaro cactus, her strength completely gone. "Please," she whispered, though there was no one to hear her. "Please help me." As consciousness began to slip away, Olivia thought she heard a sound in the distance. At first, she thought it was just the wind or her imagination. But then the sound came again, clearer this time. Hoof beats. Through her blurred vision, Olivia saw a shape on the horizon, a person on horseback moving toward her. She tried to call out, to wave her arms, but her body wouldn't respond. The last thing Olivia saw before darkness took her was the silhouette of a rider against the bright desert sky, like something from an old Western movie. Then her eyes closed and she knew nothing more. Olivia slowly opened her eyes. A wooden ceiling came into focus above her. She was lying on something soft. Cool air touched her skin. For a moment she thought she was dreaming. "You're awake." "Good." The deep voice made her turn her head. A man sat in a chair nearby. He wore a simple blue shirt and faded jeans. His face was tanned from the sun with small lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often. He looked to be in his mid-30s, with short brown hair and a day's worth of stubble on his jaw. "Where am I?" Olivia's voice came out as a rough whisper. Her throat felt like sandpaper. "My ranch," the man said. He picked up a glass of water from a side table and moved closer. "Here, drink this. Small sips only." He helped her sit up, and Olivia realized she was in a large bedroom with simple but expensive-looking furniture. The cool air was coming from air conditioning, a blessing after the desert heat. She was wearing a soft cotton shirt that wasn't hers, and her sunburned skin had been treated with some kind of cream. The water was the best thing Olivia had ever tasted. She wanted to gulp it all down, but the man gently pulled the glass away after a few sips. "Not too fast," he said. "You were pretty dehydrated. We need to take it slow." "Who are you?" Olivia asked. "Mason Grant," he said. "I found you in the desert yesterday. You were in bad shape." Yesterday. She had lost a whole day. Memories came flooding back. Greg leaving her, the endless walking, the heat, the thirst. "I remember seeing someone on a horse," she said slowly. Mason nodded. "That was me. I was checking the fences on the east side of my property when I spotted you. Good thing, too. Another few hours in that sun without water." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "Thank you," Olivia said, meaning it more than she had ever meant those words before. "You saved my life." Mason shrugged, looking a bit uncomfortable with her gratitude. Anyone would have done the same, but they both knew that wasn't true. Greg hadn't. "I'm Olivia Bennett," she said, realizing she hadn't introduced herself. "Nice to meet you, Olivia," Mason said with a small smile. "Though I wish it had been under better circumstances." A knock on the door interrupted them. A woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair entered carrying a tray. "Ah, she's awake," the woman said with a warm smile. "Good timing. I've brought some broth and toast." "This is Ellie," Mason explained. "She helps around the house. And makes sure this man doesn't live on coffee and beef jerky," Ellie added, placing the tray on Olivia's lap. "Eat slowly, dear. Your stomach needs to adjust." The broth was simple but delicious, and Olivia managed to eat half the toast before feeling full. As she ate, Mason explained that a doctor had visited while she was unconscious, diagnosing her with moderate dehydration and first-degree sunburns, but nothing that wouldn't heal with rest and care. "I called the sheriff too," Mason added. "Told him what happened. They're looking for your boyfriend." "Ex-boyfriend," Olivia corrected firmly. "Ex-boyfriend," Mason agreed with a nod. "What he did was criminal. Leaving someone in the desert like that is attempted murder in my book." Olivia set down her spoon, suddenly tired again. "I still can't believe he did it. 2 years together and he just drove away." Mason's expression darkened. "Some people show their true colors when things get tough. Better you found out now than later." After she finished eating, Mason left, her to rest, promising to check on her later. Olivia sank back into the soft pillows, her body still aching but safe now. Despite the situation, she felt strangely calm. She was alive. That was what mattered most. When Olivia woke again, the light coming through the windows had changed. It was late afternoon. She felt stronger, though her sunburned skin still hurt. She carefully got out of bed and found her way to the attached bathroom, where she discovered her face in the mirror. Her normally fair skin was red and peeling in places. Her lips were cracked. Her blonde hair was a tangled mess. Back in the bedroom, she found a set of clothes laid out for her: jeans, a t-shirt, and a light flannel shirt. They were a bit big but clean and comfortable. There was also a hairbrush and a tube of aloe vera cream for her sunburn. Once dressed, Olivia ventured out of the bedroom. She found herself in a hallway with wooden floors and simple, elegant decor. Large windows showed views of desert landscape and distant mountains. Following the sound of voices, she made her way to a spacious kitchen where Ellie was preparing food. "There you are," Ellie said warmly. "Feeling better?" "Much better, thank you," Olivia said. "This is a beautiful home." "It is that," Ellie agreed. "Mason had it built 4 years ago. Wait till you see the rest of it. Mason's out with the horses, but he should be back soon. Would you like some tea while you wait?" Olivia accepted the offer and sat at the large kitchen island while Ellie worked. The older woman had a motherly way about her that made Olivia feel at ease. "How long have you worked for Mason?" Olivia asked, sipping her tea. "Just over 3 years," Ellie said, "since he bought this place. My husband Joe handles the grounds and helps with the horses. We live in the guest house by the stables." "It seems like a big place for one person," Olivia observed. Ellie smiled. "Mason likes his space, and he has family visit sometimes." Before Olivia could ask more questions, the back door opened, and Mason walked in. He had changed into clean clothes, but still wore dusty boots. His face brightened when he saw Olivia at the counter. "You're up," he said. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Olivia said. "Thank you for everything." "Dinner will be ready in an hour," Ellie announced. "I'm making my special pot roast." Ellie's pot roast is famous in 3 counties, Mason told Olivia with a grin. "You're in for a treat. Would you like to see more of the place before dinner?" he offered, "if you're feeling up to it." Olivia nodded eagerly. She was curious about this ranch and the man who had saved her life. The tour revealed that ranch was a modest word for what was actually a stunning property. The main house was large and beautifully designed, with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the desert landscape. Modern amenities blended seamlessly with traditional ranch elements like exposed wooden beams and stone fireplaces. Outside, Mason showed her the stables where several horses peered curiously from their stalls. Among them was a beautiful chestnut mare that Olivia recognized. "That's Daisy," Mason said. "She's the one who helped me find you." Olivia approached the stall, and the horse stretched her neck out, sniffing at Olivia's hand. "She likes you," Mason observed. "I owe her my life too," Olivia said softly, stroking the horse's velvet nose. As they walked back toward the house, Olivia noticed other details about the property. A large garage with several vehicles inside, a small helicopter pad, sophisticated security cameras discreetly placed around the grounds. "This isn't just a regular ranch, is it?" she asked. Mason gave her a sidelong glance. "What makes you say that?" "Little things," Olivia said. "The security system, the helicopter pad, the way everything is top quality but you try to make it look simple." Mason chuckled. "You're observant. Most people don't notice those details." "So what do you do, Mason? When you're not rescuing stranded women in the desert?" For a moment he seemed to consider his answer carefully. Then he shrugged. "I invest in things. Manage some family business. Nothing very exciting." Olivia sensed there was more to the story, but she didn't press. She owed this man her life. He was entitled to his privacy. That evening, they enjoyed Ellie's delicious pot roast at a large dining table. Mason asked about Olivia's life in Chicago, and she told him about her marketing job, her small apartment, and her dream of someday starting her own business, designing eco-friendly products. "What brought you to Arizona?" Mason asked. "Besides, your ex, I mean." "It was supposed to be a vacation," Olivia said, the memory still raw. "Greg suggested it. Now I wonder if he planned to end things all along." "His loss," Mason said simply, refilling her glass of water. Later, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and pink, Olivia felt a strange peace settle over her. 24 hours ago, she had been dying, alone in the desert. Now she was safe, sitting beside a kind stranger who had risked his own safety to save her. Life could change so quickly, she realized, for better or for worse. Olivia woke early the next morning feeling much stronger. The desert sunrise filled her room with golden light. She took a long shower, carefully avoiding the worst of her sunburns, and put on the fresh clothes Ellie had left for her. When she went to the kitchen, she found a note from Mason saying he had gone to check on some cattle and would be back for lunch. Ellie was there, making coffee and pancakes. "Good morning, dear," Ellie said cheerfully. "Sleep well?" "Better than I have in months," Olivia admitted. "I think nearly dying makes you appreciate a good bed." Ellie laughed and set a plate of pancakes in front of her. "Mason called the sheriff again this morning. They found your ex-boyfriend." Olivia's hands froze around her coffee mug. "They did?" "Yes. He's in Phoenix. Claimed he thought you had another way back to town. As if anyone would believe that." Anger flashed through Olivia. "That's a lie. He knew exactly what he was doing." "Of course it is," Ellie agreed, her kind face hardening for a moment. "The sheriff wants to talk to you today if you're feeling up to it. They're building a case against him." Olivia nodded, though the thought of telling her story to strangers was tiring. Still, she wanted Greg to face consequences for what he had done. After breakfast, Olivia decided to explore more of the house. The main floor had a large living room with comfortable furniture, a dining room, and Mason's office, which was closed. Upstairs were several more bedrooms besides the one she was using. What caught her interest most was a room filled with books. Floor-to-ceiling shelves covered the walls, and large leather chairs invited readers to sit and get lost in a story. A rolling ladder provided access to the highest shelves. Olivia ran her fingers along the spines of the books. There were novels, history books, biographies, and many technical books about computers, programming, and business. One section was devoted to books about horses and ranch management. On a side table sat several magazines. Olivia picked one up to pass the time. It was a business magazine called Tech Innovators. She flipped through it casually, stopping when a familiar face caught her eye. It was Mason, but not the casual, relaxed cowboy she had come to know. This Mason wore an expensive suit and had shorter hair. The headline read, "Mason Grant, the reclusive tech genius who turned $50,000 into $2 billion." Olivia stared at the photo, then at the article. According to the magazine, Mason had created a cybersecurity software program 10 years ago that was now used by most major companies around the world. He had sold his company 5 years ago for nearly $2 billion and had largely disappeared from public view since then. The article described him as brilliantly innovative, but also intensely private and uncomfortable with his celebrity status in the tech world. Suddenly, many things made sense to Olivia. The expensive house designed to look modest, the helicopter pad, the high-tech security system. Mason wasn't just a rancher. He was a billionaire in hiding. She heard the sound of boots in the hallway and quickly put the magazine back where she had found it. Moments later, Mason appeared in the doorway. "There you are," he said with a smile. "I see you found my favorite room." "It's amazing," Olivia said, trying to act normal despite what she had just learned. "I love books too." Mason's eyes moved to the table where the magazine lay, and something in his expression changed. He didn't say anything, but Olivia could tell he knew she had seen it. "The sheriff is here to take your statement," Mason said after a moment. "Are you ready to talk to him?" Olivia nodded, and Mason led her to the living room where a man in a tan sheriff's uniform waited. Sheriff Davis was a serious man in his 50s, with a kind manner that put Olivia at ease. He listened carefully as she told the whole story of how Greg had abandoned her in the desert. "We've got him in custody," the sheriff said when she finished. "Leaving someone in the desert without transportation or water is a serious crime in Arizona. He's facing charges of reckless endangerment and attempted manslaughter." "Will I need to testify?" Olivia asked. "Possibly, but his lawyer is already talking about a plea deal. Your ex knows he's in serious trouble." After the sheriff left, an uncomfortable silence fell between Olivia and Mason. She could tell he was wondering if she had seen the magazine article. "I know who you are," she finally said. "I saw the magazine." Mason sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "I figured you might. Does it change anything?" Olivia thought about it. Did it change anything? The man who had saved her life was the same person regardless of how much money he had. "No," she said honestly, "except that I now understand why you have a helicopter pad." Mason laughed, the tension breaking. "It comes in handy sometimes." They went outside and sat on the porch. The day was cooler than usual, with a pleasant breeze blowing across the desert. "Why didn't you tell me?" Olivia asked. Mason was quiet for a moment. "When people know about the money, it changes how they see me. Suddenly I'm not just Mason anymore. I'm Mason Grant, the billionaire. People either want something from me or they treat me differently." "Is that why you live out here? To get away from all that?" He nodded. 3 years ago I bought this place, as a weekend retreat. Then I realized I was happier here than anywhere else. So I moved permanently. I still handle investments and sit on some boards, but mostly remotely." "And you really check fences and take care of cattle?" Olivia asked with a smile. "I really do," Mason said. "It's honest work. At the end of the day, I can see what I've accomplished. In the tech world, everything is virtual. Out here, it's real." Olivia understood that. Her own job in marketing sometimes felt meaningless, creating ads to make people buy things they didn't need. "What about you?" Mason asked. "You mentioned wanting to start your own business." "It's just a dream," Olivia said. "I design eco-friendly home products in my spare time, things made from sustainable materials that are both beautiful and practical." "Why, haven't you done it?" Olivia shrugged. "Money, mostly. Starting a business is expensive, and fear, I guess. Leaving a secure job is scary." "Fear's the biggest dream killer there is," Mason said quietly. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching a hawk circle high above the desert. "How long will you stay?" Mason finally asked. "You're welcome here as long as you need." "Olivia." hadn't thought that far ahead. Her vacation time was almost over. Soon she would need to return to Chicago, to her job, to her life. The thought didn't excite her as it once might have. "I should probably head back soon," she said reluctantly. "I have a job, an apartment." "Of course," Mason said, his voice carefully neutral. That evening, they had dinner on the patio. Ellie had prepared a delicious meal of grilled fish and vegetables before leaving for the night. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant colors, and somewhere in the distance a coyote called. "I never thought the desert could be so beautiful," Olivia said. "When I was lost out there, it seemed so hostile." "The desert is both," Mason said. "Beautiful and dangerous. You have to respect it." As they ate, Mason told stories about ranch life, the time a rattlesnake had gotten into the barn, the neighbor's cow that kept breaking through the fence, the desert tortoise that lived near, the south pasture. Olivia found herself laughing more than she had in months. There was something about Mason that made her feel comfortable, despite knowing he was one of the richest men in America. After dinner, they walked to the stables to check on the horses. Daisy, the mare who had helped rescue Olivia, whinnied softly when she saw them. "She remembers you," Mason said as Olivia stroked the horse's nose. "I'll never forget her," Olivia replied. "Or you." Their eyes met in the soft light of the stable. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Mason gently tucked a strand of hair behind Olivia's ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. "I'm glad I found you," he said softly. "So am I," Olivia whispered. The moment was interrupted by the ringing of Mason's phone. He pulled it from his pocket with a frown. "I have to take this," he said apologetically. "Business call." As he stepped away to answer, Olivia continued petting Daisy, her heart beating a little faster than before. Tomorrow she would need to make plans to return to Chicago. But tonight, under the star-filled desert sky, she didn't want to think about leaving. The next morning, Olivia woke to the sound of rain. It was a rare desert shower, turning the dusty landscape into a palette of deeper colors. She stood by her window, watching the raindrops create small rivers in the dry earth. A soft knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Ellie with a tray of breakfast. "Mason asked me to bring this up," Ellie said, setting the tray on a small table. "He had to go into town for a meeting, but will be back by noon." "Thank you," Olivia said, eyeing the fresh fruit, toast, and coffee. "That's very kind." Ellie smiled knowingly. He's never brought breakfast to a guest before. Before Olivia could respond to this interesting piece of information, Ellie continued. "The sheriff called. Your ex-boyfriend has agreed to a plea deal. You won't need to testify in court." Relief washed over Olivia. The thought of facing Greg again had been weighing on her mind. "What will happen to him?" she asked. 6 months in. County jail, 5 years probation, and a hefty fine," Ellie said. "The sheriff said it's more than most get for a first offense. Judge must not have liked what he did." After breakfast, Olivia used Mason's laptop to check her emails. Her boss had sent 3 messages asking where she was. Her vacation time was up. A friend had texted about meeting for drinks. Her landlord reminded her that rent was due. Her old life was calling her back. With a sigh, Olivia booked a flight to Chicago for the following day. It was time to go home, even if the thought filled her with an unexpected sadness. When Mason returned, she was sitting on the porch swing watching the last of the rain clouds move away. His truck kicked up mud as it came up the long driveway. "You're leaving," he said as he approached, noticing her expression. "Tomorrow." Olivia nodded. "I booked a flight. My boss is already sending angry emails." Mason sat beside her on the swing. "I understand. You have a life to get back to." "The sheriff told Ellie about Greg's plea deal," she said, changing the subject. "I won't have to testify." "That's good news," Mason said. "Though 6 months seems light for what he did to you." They sat in silence for a moment. The porch swing, moving gently back and forth. "I have a confession to make," Mason finally said. "I looked you up online." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "You did?" "I was curious," he admitted. I found your design website. Your work is really good, Olivia. Those lamps made from reclaimed wood and the plant pots from recycled materials. They're beautiful. You really looked at my site? Olivia was surprised. Her little website only got a few visitors a month. It was more of a portfolio than a business. I did. Why haven't you tried to sell these designs? They're unique. Olivia shrugged. I told you. Money, fear, the usual reasons. What if those reasons went away? Mason asked, his blue eyes serious. What if you had the funding to start your business properly? Olivia stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying I'd like to invest in your company, Mason said simply. I think your designs could be successful, and I have experience growing businesses. You want to invest in my business? But you barely know me. I know enough, Mason said. I know you're creative, resourceful, and strong. You survived being abandoned in the desert. Starting a business should be easy after that. Olivia didn't know what to say. Was he offering this because he felt sorry for her? Or was it because he liked her? Or did he genuinely believe in her designs? This isn't charity, Mason added as if reading her thoughts. I only invest in things I believe will succeed. And I believe in you. I don't know what to say, Olivia admitted. Say you'll think about it, Mason suggested. No pressure. My offer stands whether you leave tomorrow or not. Olivia nodded slowly. I'll think about it. That afternoon, Mason took Olivia riding. Her sunburns had healed enough that she could sit comfortably in a saddle, and Mason gave her a gentle horse, named Pepper, to ride. They rode across his property, through landscapes that changed from rocky outcroppings to flat desert plains dotted with cacti. This land has been ranched for over 100 years, Mason told her as they rode side by side. The previous owner was going to sell it to developers who wanted to build luxury homes. I couldn't bear the thought of all this being covered in houses and swimming pools. So you saved it, Olivia said. Mason smiled. I guess I have a habit of saving things. They stopped at a small stream that had swelled with the morning's rain. While the horses drank, Mason and Olivia sat on a large rock sharing water and the sandwiches Ellie had packed for them. Tell me more about your life in Chicago, Mason said. Olivia thought about it. It's fine. I have a nice apartment. My job pays well. I have friends I see sometimes. You don't sound excited about it, Mason observed. I'm not, Olivia admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. Before all this happened, I was starting to feel stuck, like I was just going through the motions. What would make you excited? Mason asked. If you could do anything, what would it be? I'd start my company, Olivia said without hesitation. Find a small workshop space, create beautiful, sustainable things that people would love to have in their homes. Maybe eventually have a small team working with me. As she spoke, her face lit up with a passion that made Mason smile. That's what you should do, he said. Life's too short to be just fine. They rode back to the ranch as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert. Back at the stables, Mason helped Olivia dismount, his hands lingering on her waist a moment longer than necessary. Thank you for today, Olivia said softly. For everything. Don't thank me yet, Mason replied. I have one more surprise for you. After they had cleaned up and changed clothes, Mason led Olivia to his office, a room she hadn't been in before. It was less formal than she expected, a comfortable space with a large desk, bookshelves, and a wall of monitors. On the desk lay a folder with her name on it. Mason gestured for her to open it. Inside was a business plan for Olivia Bennett. Designs, complete with startup costs, marketing strategies, and projected growth over 5 years. There were also preliminary designs for a logo, a website, and even a small retail space. When did you do all this? Olivia asked, amazed. Last night, Mason admitted. I couldn't sleep. Olivia flipped through the pages, her heart racing. It was her dream laid out in black and white suddenly seeming possible. This is incredible, she said, her voice thick with emotion. It's just a starting point, Mason said. You would have complete creative control. I'd just provide the capital and business advice if you want it. Olivia looked up at him, tears in her eyes. Why are you doing this for me? Mason stepped closer, taking her hands in his. Because in the few days I've known you, I've seen something special. Someone who deserves a chance to follow her dreams. He hesitated, then added softly, and maybe because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since I found you in the desert. Their eyes met, and Olivia felt her heart skip. Slowly, Mason leaned down and kissed her, a gentle kiss that asked a question. Olivia answered by wrapping her arms around his neck and kissing him back. When they finally pulled apart, Mason rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he whispered. Not forever, just a little longer. Give us a chance to see what this could be. Olivia thought about her flight tomorrow, her job, her apartment in Chicago. Then she thought about the business plan on the desk, about Mason's offer, about the way her heart raced when he was near. I need to think, she said honestly. This is all happening so fast. Mason nodded, stepping back to give her space. Take all the time you need, no pressure. That night, Olivia lay awake in her bed, her mind racing. Tomorrow she was supposed to fly back to Chicago, back to her old life. But what was waiting for her there? A boss who was already angry. An apartment that had never felt like home. A life that was just fine. Here, she had the chance for something more. A business of her own. A new beginning. And maybe, just maybe, a chance at love with a man who had literally saved her life. As the desert moon shone through her window, Olivia made her decision. Morning came, bringing with it the day of Olivia's scheduled flight back to Chicago. She woke early and packed her few belongings. The clothes she had been wearing when Mason found her had been washed and folded neatly in a drawer. As she held the light summer dress, now clean but still bearing small tears from her journey through the desert, memories of that terrible day flooded back. How close she had come to dying. How a stranger on horseback had appeared like a miracle to save her. Olivia went downstairs with her small bag. She found Mason in the kitchen, making coffee. He turned when he heard her footsteps, his eyes going to the bag in her hand. You're still leaving, he said. It wasn't a question. I have to go back, at least for a while, Olivia said. I can't just disappear from my life. I have responsibilities. My lease, my job. Mason nodded, his face carefully neutral. I understand. Your car is ready to take you to the airport whenever you're ready. Car? I arranged for a driver, Mason explained. It's a 2-hour drive to Phoenix. Olivia set her bag down and accepted the cup of coffee Mason offered. They sat at the kitchen island, an uncomfortable silence between them. About your offer, Olivia finally said. The investment in my business. Mason looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. I want to accept it, she continued. But I need to do it right. I need to go back to Chicago, give proper notice at my job, end my lease, and pack up my designs and materials. I can't just run away from my responsibilities. The tension in Mason's shoulders eased slightly. That makes sense. The offer stands. Take whatever time you need. I thought maybe we could talk about the details over the phone while I'm getting things settled, Olivia suggested. Figure out where the business should be based, the structure of the investment. Of course, Mason agreed. I'll have my lawyers draw up some options for you to consider. No strings attached. They finished their coffee as Ellie arrived to make breakfast. The older woman took one look at Olivia's packed bag and Mason's somber expression and quietly went about her work, giving them space. After breakfast, Olivia said goodbye to Ellie, who hugged her tightly. You come back and see us. You hear? Ellie said. This place could use a woman's touch. The black car that would take Olivia to the airport arrived promptly at 9. The driver loaded her small bag into the trunk while Olivia and Mason stood awkwardly on the porch. I don't know how to thank you, Olivia said, for saving my life, for everything. Mason reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. I have something for you. Inside was a simple silver pendant in the shape of a compass. "So you never lose your way again," he said softly. Olivia's eyes filled with tears as she turned around, lifting her hair so Mason could fasten the necklace around her neck. The silver felt cool against her skin. "I'll call you when I land," she promised. Mason nodded, then pulled her into a tight hug. "Be safe," he whispered against her hair. The drive to Phoenix was long and quiet. Olivia watched the desert landscape pass by, so different now that she was viewing it from the safety of an air-conditioned car rather than struggling through it on foot. At the airport, she checked in for her flight and made her way to the gate. As she waited to board, she sent a text to her boss saying she would be back in the office tomorrow. Then she called her friend Lisa to ask if she could pick her up from O'Hare Airport. "Where have you been?" Lisa demanded. "I've been texting you for days." "It's a long story," Olivia said. "I'll tell you everything when I see you." The flight to Chicago was smooth. Olivia spent most of it thinking about Mason and his offer. Starting her own business had been a dream for so long, but now that it could actually happen, she felt both excited and terrified. When the plane landed at O'Hare, Olivia turned on her phone to find a text from Mason. "Landed safely at your end?" She smiled and texted back, "Just landed. About to meet my friend." Lisa was waiting at arrivals, full of questions about Olivia's sunburned skin and the strange story of being abandoned in the desert. Olivia told her everything on the drive to her apartment. Though she downplayed Mason's wealth and his business offer, "He sounds too good to be true," Lisa said suspiciously. "Handsome cowboy millionaire rescues damsel in distress?" "He's not like that," Olivia defended. "He's genuine, down to earth." Lisa raised an eyebrow but said nothing more. Olivia's apartment felt small and cramped after the spacious ranch house. The view from her window was of another apartment building rather than open desert and mountains. The air smelled of city pollution instead of sage and open spaces. That night, she called Mason as promised. They talked for over an hour about everything, and nothing: his day on the ranch, her flight, the business plan he was developing for her company. "I miss you," Mason said near the end of the call. "The house feels empty without you." "I miss you too," Olivia admitted. "Chicago doesn't feel like home anymore." The next morning, Olivia went back to her marketing job. Her boss was upset about her extended absence, but calmed down when she explained about being abandoned in the desert. Her co-workers crowded around her desk, eager to hear the dramatic story. But as Olivia sat in her cubicle, staring at her computer screen filled with ad campaigns for products nobody really needed, she felt a profound sense of emptiness. This job had once seemed so important to her, now it felt meaningless. That evening, she began sorting through her apartment, separating her design materials from things she could donate or sell. She photographed her furniture to list online and started packing her most important belongings over. The next 2 weeks, Olivia methodically dismantled her life in Chicago. She gave notice at her job, ended her lease, and sold most of her furniture. She and Mason spoke every day, sometimes for hours, planning her business and getting to know each other better from a distance. Mason's lawyers sent over investment documents that were more generous than Olivia had expected. He was offering seed, money as a grant rather than a loan, taking only a small percentage of future profits in return. The contract stated clearly that creative control would remain entirely with Olivia. "This is too generous," she told him during one of their calls. "It's a good investment," Mason insisted. "I believe in you and your designs." 3 weeks after leaving Arizona, Olivia was ready to return. Her essential belongings had been shipped ahead. Her Chicago apartment was empty. Her goodbyes had been said. As her flight descended toward Phoenix, Olivia touched the silver compass pendant around her neck. She had left Arizona confused and uncertain. She was returning with clear purpose and direction. Mason was waiting at the arrivals gate, looking slightly out of place in his jeans and boots among the business travelers. When he saw Olivia, his face lit up with a smile that made her heart race. She ran to him, dropping her carry-on bag as he swept her into his arms, lifting her off the ground in a tight hug. "Welcome back," he whispered. I'm not just back for a visit, Olivia said when he set her down. I've ended my lease, quit my job, shipped all my design materials. I'm all in, for the business and for us. Mason's smile widened. I was hoping you'd say that. I have another surprise for you. On the drive back to the ranch, he told her about the workshop he had set up for her in one of the outbuildings. It had everything she would need to create. Her designs, tools, materials, space to work and think. You did all that for me? Olivia asked, amazed. I wanted you to have a place that was yours, Mason said. Whether our relationship works out or not, your business is yours. That was important to me. As they drove up to the ranch, Olivia saw Ellie and Joe waiting on the porch, waving welcome. Beyond them stood the beautiful house, the stables, the desert stretching to the mountains, the place where she had nearly died, the place where she had found new life. Mason stopped the truck and turned to her. Are you sure about this? It's not too late to change your mind. Olivia looked at the man beside her. Not a billionaire tech genius, not a cowboy rescuer, just Mason. A man who had seen her at her worst and still believed in her enough to invest in her dreams. I've never been more sure of anything, she said, reaching for his hand. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The desert that had once nearly claimed her life now stretched before her like a promise. Harsh but beautiful, challenging but rewarding. Like the new life she was choosing. Like the love she had found in the most unexpected place. Olivia stepped out of the truck and walked toward her future, the silver compass warm against her skin, guiding her home.